I never expected a billionaire to learn heartwarming secrets about love from a black maid. I will never forget the day everything fell apart. Standing in front of that towering mansion, the wealth surrounding me was suffocating. Crystal chandeliers sparkled above, casting haunting shadows on the marble floor, while the scent of expensive wood polish filled my lungs. My heart raced. I was just a maid, a nobody, in a world where money spoke louder than love. I rushed to the kitchen, wringing my hands tight. Inside, the sounds of laughter echoed, a gathering of the elite, sipping champagne and discussing business deals as if they held lives in their palms. But here I was, invisible, merging into the backdrop, listening, yearning for a world where warmth meant more than just a paycheck. His name was Austin Blackwood, a billionaire whose allure blanketed the room, igniting whispers among the guests. His sharp jawline and piercing blue eyes made my chest tighten. But he was trapped in his own ice fortress, chasing numbers and status while love danced tantalizingly outside his reach. I could sense his loneliness beneath the surface, a fragile heart encased in a vault of money that I watched as he moved through the crowd, a king in a castle. Yet, I could see the flicker of something deeper, an ache, a confusion. Did he realize that the lavish lifestyle he led was a bitter mask? My grandmother used to tell me stories about riches and love being at odds, and here, in this gilded cage, it felt profoundly true. Treasures could buy a home, but they couldn't fill a heart. Then our eyes locked for a moment. My breath hitched. I quickly looked away, but the electric charge between us was undeniable. I could sense destiny tugging at me, whispering secrets I couldn't understand. A maid and a billionaire impossible, they said. Yet in that instant, I felt the stirrings of something greater than either of us. Suddenly, laughter echoed in my ear, a sharp reminder of my place. Gail, one of the other maids, flashed me a teasing smile while adjusting her uniform. Careful, you might just swoon, she joked, but there was envy in her tone. I frowned, biting the inside of my cheek. They laughed like they were free, like they belonged here. I felt like a ghost among the living. That I poured the last of the iced tea into a crystal glass when a commotion arose. A loud crash rang out. My heart lurched. Everyone rushed to the source, their delighted screams echoing off the walls. I hesitated, but curiosity dragged me along. Peering through the crowd, I caught sight of Austin, a distressed expression stitched across his face. He looked at me, his gaze pleading. In that moment, everything shifted. The crowd parted, leaving him vulnerable, exposed, a millionaire unraveling. I stepped forward, unsure, but driven by an urge to reach out. Is everything okay? My voice came out soft, but filled with concern. The tension thickened. He turned, eyes wide, as if my words were a lifeline. My mother, she's unwell. I didn't expect. His voice cracked, dropping into a whisper like a broken promise. That was all it took. My heart shattered for him. Behind every fortune lies stories of loss, pain, and sorrow. I felt that familiar tightness in my chest. Suddenly, I wasn't just a maid, and he wasn't just a billionaire. We were two souls searching for hope in this painful world. But could I really help him? Just then, a high-pitched scream echoed from the other side of the room, cutting through the air like a knife. Stunned, we turned towards the sound, ice rising in my veins. What was happening now? Austin's brows furrowed, brimming with uncertainty. I could see the storm brewing in his eyes. There was much at stake. A world of problems had just unveiled itself, and I was caught at the center. What did it mean to unravel such heartbreak? This was only the beginning. Our fates twisted together like destinies entwined, but would we break apart? Hey, before we continue with this amazing story, I need to give you an important heads up. Many subscribers have reported that YouTube unsubscribed them without warning. Take a quick second to check the red button below to make sure you're still subscribed to the channel. I'd hate for you to miss any of the exclusive content coming soon. And while you're there, smash that like button. It really helps me out with the algorithm. Oh, and tell me in the comments, which city are you watching from? I love getting to know every amazing person who's part of this community. Your participation makes all the difference. Let's connect. The chilling scream faded into a stunned silence that wrapped around us like fog. The guests, once animated with laughter, now stood rooted, eyes wide in shock, as the commotion swelled. Anxiety gripped my insides, my pulse quickening as I turned back to Austin, whose expression had twisted from distress to sheer panic. "What is happening?" I asked, my voice shaking. His gaze darted around the room before locking back on mine. "It's my mother. They're saying she fainted. Something's wrong." His hands trembled at his sides, and I could feel the desperation radiating from him. In that moment, the opulent mansion that had once seemed labyrinthine and suffocating transformed into a canvas of pure chaos. Servers stumbled, drinks spilled, and muffled cries resonated in stark contrast to the gilded walls. It was as if the universe had plucked the strings of fate and played an ominous chord. Instinctually, I stepped closer to him, my heart aching at the fear that dimmed his usual facade. "We need to find her," I urged, a spark of determination igniting within me. "Follow me." Together, we pushed through the throng of startled guests, an unlikely duo weaving through a tapestry of silk and diamond. Austin appeared lost in his thoughts, his hands tightly clasped, knuckles pale. Could he really be unraveling before me? The billionaire who wielded power so smoothly seemed stripped of his armor, a man bound to his emotions through a river of uncertain. As we reached the doorway that led to the back of the mansion, a wave of cool air rushed in, providing a brief respite from the panic that had engulfed the gathering. I could hear murmurs swelling outside, a stark reminder of the lives beyond these walls. The search continued, and with each passing moment, dread bubbled within my chest. Suddenly, a woman with glossy hair rushed out of a room, her face pale, eyes darting in search of someone. "Austin!" she called frantically. "Austin!" It felt like the air had thickened, charging the atmosphere with urgent electricity. He dashed toward her, only to be met with tears spilling down her cheeks. "It's your mother," she sobbed. "The doctors are evaluating her." She collapsed in the garden. "I'm so sorry." The world around us narrowed, and I could see Austin's composure fracturing, piece by piece. His shoulders slumped, and for a moment, he looked smaller, more vulnerable than before. How did this happen?" he breathed, despair washing over his voice. "She was out there, just enjoying the flowers." And then her voice broke, and the words hung like dead weight. I stood frozen, watching as the reality of his world sank in, gradually morphing into a storm of helplessness. My own heart ached at the sight. I wanted to reach out, to comfort him, but what could I possibly offer? He belonged in a realm where tragedies could be eclipsed by wealth and power. Where could I fit? "I'll go with you," I blurted out before I could think, driven by an intense need to support this man unraveling before me. His eyes flickered with a mix of confusion and gratitude, but before he could respond, a voice interrupted. Gail had approached, her demeanor shifting from playful banter to the urgency of the moment. "Let me help. I'll call for an ambulance." "Thank you," I murmured, surprised by the genuine kindness she offered, breaking through the tension. Moments later, Austin and I rushed outside, the manicured lawn sprawling before us, an idyllic setting transformed into a stage for drama. The evening air was thick with tension, and I could feel the weight of his despair as we approached the garden, where the petals had wilted beneath the weight of uncertainty. But then, a heart-stopping sight caught my eye. A figure sprawled on the ground among the vibrant roses, motionless. My chest tightened, and dread coiled around my throat. As we rushed closer, the reality set in. This was his mother, kneeling beside her. Austin's hands shook as he reached for her, a haunting vulnerability in his eyes. "Mom," he whispered, as if afraid to wake her. I knelt too, desperately clinging to hope. "Someone's coming to help," I assured him, my voice unsteady. But inside, an echo of fear screamed that sometimes help might not arrive in time. Just as sirens began to wail in the distance, a sudden clarity washed over me. The image of the billionaire and the maid began to shimmer with untold possibilities, two lives colliding, both seeking solace amidst chaos. But what would happen to us in the aftermath of this night? Then came the unexpected. Austin's mother stirred slightly, a flutter of lashes brushing against her pale skin, and for a second, the world felt like a possible place of healing. But as her eyes opened, the flicker of recognition morphed into an expression of fear, and she peered past Austin. My breath caught in my throat as I realized she wasn't looking at her son, but at me, her gaze piercing through the air with an intensity that sent shockwaves down my spine. "Who are you?" she croaked, her voice thin and fragile. In that moment, Everything I thought I understood about our worlds, our fates, shifted dramatically. I stared into her eyes, feeling the ground beneath me tremble with the weight of an unspoken truth. The past was colliding with the present, and I could almost hear the intricate web of secrets tightening around us, waiting to unravel. Austin's mother blinked slowly, her eyes still clouded with confusion as she tried to process the sight before her. I could sense the shift in the atmosphere, a heaviness that pressed against my chest, intertwining my fate with theirs in a way I had never anticipated. Austin's hand trembled as he brushed a stray lock of hair from her face, desperation coating every gentle motion. "Mom, it's me, Austin. You fainted." "We called for help," he said softly, his voice wavering with a mix of hope and fear. The sirens grew louder, but in that moment, they faded into the backdrop of my racing heart. Her gaze flicked back to me, sharp and penetrating, as if she were scrutinizing every detail of my being. "Who are you?" she croaked again. The question layered with more than just curiosity, it was a challenge, a call for clarity amid the murky waters of a life spun dangerously close to chaos. My throat felt tight, every word sticky with uncertainty. How could I explain my presence, my purpose here, so intricately woven into the tender fabric of her son's life? But before I could find my voice, the sound of footsteps approached, accompanied by the blare of emergency vehicles. An ambulance pulled up, its bright lights piercing through the darkness, a beacon of hope amid disarray. The crew rushed toward us, laden with equipment and urgency. As they hurried to assess her condition, that I stepped back, watching as they worked with practiced precision, feeling a sense of being an intruder in this intensely personal moment. Austin stood by, his body rigid, tension radiating off him like waves crashing against a rocky shore. I longed to reach out, to soothe the raw edges of his nerves, but the gravity of their relationship anchored me in place. His mother was briefly whisked away into the back of the ambulance, and I caught a glimpse of Austin, his face illuminated by the harsh light, etched with anguish. I took a step toward him. "She's going to be okay," I whispered, though I wasn't sure if I believed the words myself. He shook his head, an expression strikingly forlorn. "She needs more than okay. She's been battling this illness for so long, and I just wanted her to enjoy this evening." I thought she was finally getting better. Tears pricked at my eyes, seeing him so exposed, the walls he had built around himself crumbling in the face of his mother's fragile state. "You couldn't have known," I said gently, wishing to impart some comfort during his storm of despair. Just then, a flicker of light caught my attention. Gail had returned, her face a mixture of concern and determination. She approached Austin, reaching out without hesitation. "Come with me," she urged him. "Let us get inside for a moment. Let them take care of her, and we can talk. You shouldn't go through this alone." To my surprise, Austin allowed her to lead him away, and I felt an unexpected pang of jealousy twist in my chest. It wasn't jealousy towards Gail, no. She was beneath the flurry of panic, a solid surprise. It was jealousy of the solace she could offer him, the lightness of companionship, the warmth of presence in his moment of need. I lingered by the ambulance, my own heart thumping wildly, asthmatic fears surging through me. Was I just a passing breeze in his life? An inconsequential detail to be swept away as he dauntlessly faced the trials ahead? Minutes dripped by like honey, the sound of hurried voices swirling around me. Finally, after what felt like an eternity, the ambulance doors swung shut, and I caught sight of Austin again. He stood somewhat taller now, perhaps filled with an ember of determination, as he and Gail made their way back toward me. "Is she?" I began, but the question fell from my lips unformed. Austin's eyes glistened with an emotion vulnerable enough to shatter the diamond exterior he wore. "They're taking her to the hospital. They think there's more going on than just a fainting spell." The gravity of the situation sank back in, and the heaviness pushed me down anew. Just as I opened my mouth to offer my continued support, Gail interjected, her voice steady, drawing our focus. "Austin, I think you should let her come with us. She's been here the entire evening. She deserves to know what is happening with your mother." I blinked in surprise, feeling exposed under her gaze that offered nothing but sincerity. "Are you sure?" "That's my call," he said, his voice strong yet tired. "If she wants to, we shouldn't leave anyone behind." In that swirling touch of kindness, a new thread wove between us, binding us together through shared terror and uncertainty. I felt the corners of my fears soften slightly, as if hope dared to surface among the depths of despair. As we headed towards the car, the hesitant clouds rolling across the night sky formed a veil of uncertainty above. I couldn't shake the feeling that we were racing into the unknown, that the undercurrents of this night were pulling us apart even as we drew closer. But as we reached the car, a shadow loomed over us. A woman stepped into our path, her presence commanding and unmistakably familiar. It was Delilah, Austin's estranged sister, the missing piece he had never spoken of. "What are you doing here?" Austin's voice was a mix of confusion and suspicion as he stared at the woman whose features mirrored his own. "I'm here for Mom," she replied, her voice steady but laced with an edge of defiance. And in that moment, I realized that the night had only begun to unfurl its tangled secrets. We were on a precipice, a delicate balance of love and dread, and as we stood there daubed in the haze of uncertainty, I felt an unexpected thrill of fear course through me, because what lay ahead could shatter everything we had built or tether us even closer than before. The tension rose in the air as Delilah stood there, her arms crossed, defiantly challenging her brother's confusion. The buzzing of the world around us fell to a dull hum, drowning out the sirens and the chatter of paramedics. I could feel the heaviness of the situation clenching at my chest again, this unexpected revelation weaving a complicated thread into the fabric of an already fragile night. "Mom's in the hospital, she doesn't need this right now," Austin said, his frustration palpable as he took a half-step back, trying to shield his vulnerability. Yet Delilah wouldn't back down. "If you think I came here to stir trouble, you're mistaken." Her voice softened momentarily, but there was steel beneath it. "I came because I care about her, too. Mom deserves to have everyone who loves her around." Austin's shoulders slumped as the shifting tides of guilt crashed against him. "It's not that simple." "Maybe it should be," Delilah shot back, her gaze piercing. "You're not the only one who has a stake in this." I watched silently, a burden in my throat, unsure of my place in this reunion filled with fissures and unfinished conversations. Austin's family dynamic had been a puzzle I longed to piece together. Yet here it was crashing together, piles of unresolved conflicts layered on top of each other. "Look, Delilah," Austin said, his voice lowered, almost hushed. "You left. For years. And now, when things are this bad, you just show up expecting things to fall into place? It's called being family." Her words sliced through the air, charged with pain and an urgency that made my heart race. "It's called being a sister. Yes, I made mistakes. But maybe Mom needs us both right now." A shuffle of footsteps echoed nearby as paramedics made their way back to the ambulance, the medical chatter drawing closer as they discussed the best course of action for Austin's mom. Both siblings fell silent, as if each word spoken was a weight tethering them to an unresolved chapter. Though surrounded by chaos, I felt a strange calm settle around me, an invitation to bear witness to this moment of raw honesty. "Why don't you just come with us, Delilah?" I interjected, surprising even myself. "We can figure it out together when we get to the hospital. We don't have time for this fight." Austin's eyes flared as he glanced at me, bewildered. "Is that really what you want?" "Yes, because we need to be there for her. We can deal with this later." I met his gaze, willing him to understand the urgency, the hope in allowing reconciliation amidst heartbreak. Austin nodded slowly, the tension deflating, albeit hesitantly. With a resigned sigh, Delilah stepped aside. "Fine, let us go. But the first thing we need to do is talk about the past. We can't ignore it any longer." As we climbed into the car, an unexpected wave of belief washed over me, buoying my spirits. Perhaps in this moment, nestled between pain and healing, we could begin to mend broken threads. I hesitated just a heartbeat before sliding into the back seat beside Austin, feeling the warmth of his presence and the unspoken weight tethering us together. The ride to the hospital was filled with a fragile silence, broken only by the sporadic hum of hospital activity as we approached. Each member of the trio seemed lost in thought, yet I felt a burgeoning connection, a soft thread of understanding beginning to weave among us as we faced the uncertainty ahead. As we stepped inside the hospital, chaos reigned yet again. The smell of antiseptic mingled with quiet whispers of worried families navigating their own fears. Austin and Delilah fell into a hushed dispute, their words sharp yet identified, each jab revealing a lifetime of hurt. I stood a short distance away, torn between wanting to jump in and bridge the gap, and knowing that perhaps this was a rift that only they could begin to heal. Yet as their voices grew louder, a sudden commotion captured my attention. A doctor emerged from behind the emergency room doors, his expression grave, the weight of predictions heavy on his shoulders. Austin and Delilah fell silent, their quarrel suspended in air as they turned toward the doctor, eyes wide with trepidation. My stomach knotted as reality crashed around us like shattering glass. "Sir, are you a relative of Mrs. Bennet?" the doctor asked, eyes scanning the trio before him, desperation barely masking his professional demeanor. Austin nodded, the sudden shift indistinguishable from fear, and I instinctively reached for his hand, squeezing it, urging him to breathe, to hold on to the flicker of hope that lingered just beneath the surface. But before the doctor could speak further, a sharp cry echoed through the corridor, a child calling for their parent, mixed with the rapid sound of footsteps. Suddenly, our attention was drawn away, a moment of distraction augmenting the urgency. Then the doctor began to speak again, but the eerie cadence of the hospital drowned out his voice as the world around us ceased to exist. The conversation returned, threads of each sibling's past intertwined with new present challenges, hearts both hopeful and mourning. And just as it felt like time had suspended, the unthinkable transpired, a revelation unfurling from the unpredictable coils of crisis. With a heavy heart, the doctor paused and looked deeper into Austin's eyes, as if he were about to deliver the kind of news that could alter everything we thought we knew. "She's stable, but I'm afraid we're looking at a more severe condition than expected." The air thickened as shades of worry gripped my throat again. My heart raced, not knowing if we were prepared for the following words that lay heavy upon the doctor's lips. This was only the beginning, moments building like a symphony of uncertainties with lingering echoes that could drown us all. In that charged atmosphere, waiting and wanting, I held on to Austin tighter, knowing this night could unravel in ways we could never have predicted. As the doctor glanced at us, then back at his clipboard, the tension in the air thickened, a suffocating reminder that a single moment could change everything. "We're uncertain about the full extent of her condition," he continued, his voice steady yet laced with an edge of resignation. "Further tests will be needed, but I suggest you come prepared for the possibility of surgery." Austin inhaled sharply, his face paling as his mind reeled beneath the weight of the statement. Delilah, too, seemed to shrink within herself, her earlier bravado faltering in the face of potential tragedy. Her features twisted, caught between anger and fear, the very emotions that had propelled her to return dividing her once again. Instinctively, I gripped Austin's hand tighter, feeling the tremor coursing through him. The sterile walls of the hospital echoed with a cruel reminder of life's fragility. In that moment, surrounded by the unfamiliar faces of a life-saving team, I could hear the chaos in Austin's heart. It was a cacophony of worries. What if I had reached out sooner? What if Delilah hadn't left? What if our mother didn't have the strength to pull through? "Do you want me to find someone for you?" I murmured, almost as a whisper. Austin turned to me, and for a moment, the barriers dissolved in his gaze, revealing vulnerability hidden beneath his protective armor. "No," he said softly, shaking his head but not releasing my hand. "I should do this. I need to be here, both of us do." He gestured to Delilah, who was now staring at the floor, the cracks in the linoleum mirroring those in their familial foundation. "Let us find a waiting room," I suggested gently, nudging them toward a quieter corner as the realization hit me this was not just about their mother, but also about piecing together what family meant in the face of uncertainty and fear. That we entered a small waiting room, bland and lifeless, but at least removed from the sterile chaos of the emergency ward. I settled between them, the tension palpable enough to slice through. The silence hung heavy until finally, Delilah sat back and broke it. "I never wanted this to happen," she confessed, her voice quivering and raw. Tears brimmed at the edges of her eyes, glinting like shattered glass beneath the fluorescent lights. "I thought I could protect myself by stepping away, by pretending everything was fine." Austin looked at her, a mix of hurt and understanding flickering across his face. Mom needed you, Delilah. We both did. And now his voice broke, even as anger simmered beneath the surface. Now we might lose her. I know, she replied, her voice tightening as the weight of regret settled upon her shoulders. But I came back because I realized how wrong I was. I don't want to lose what we have left of our family. The air shifted slightly, a thread of hope tangled with nostalgia weaving through heavy hearts. I watched as Austin's expression softened, the fight within him dissipating like steam from a boiling kettle. Then let us do this together, he said slowly, his voice now steady. First, for Mom, and then for us. We can't keep blaming each other for the past. We need to focus on what's next. Delilah nodded, her spirit brightening slightly as they both turned toward the larger challenge looming ahead. I'd like that, she whispered. We have to be brave for her. Their sibling connection, though tangled and frayed, was beginning to light up the darkness around us, and I couldn't help but allow myself a small flicker of faith. Maybe, just maybe, in the haze of despair and uncertainty, they could find a way back to each other. Yet just as I allowed myself to settle into that glimmer of warmth, the door swung open again with a suddenness that startled us. A nurse peeked through, her face pale but serious. Mr. Bennett, we need to discuss something with you now. The room seemed to constrict around us, the fragility returning like a storm cloud. Austin stood abruptly, my heart sinking with the dreadful weight of what the nurse might have to say. I exchanged a worried glance with Delilah before Austin followed the nurse out, a sense of urgency pulling him away. Austin, I called, but he didn't turn back. The nurse led him down the corridor, disappearing into the chaos, leaving the remnants of his stirring emotions behind. What did she mean? Delilah whispered, grasping at the fraying edges of hope. I could see the anxieties rising in her, the vulnerability spilling over once again. But before I could answer, an unexpected figure entered the waiting room, an elderly woman carrying a tray of warm sandwiches and coffee, her smile radiating kindness amidst our despair. I saw you all sitting here, looking so troubled, she said softly, placing the tray on the coffee table. I thought you might need a little comfort. The unexpected warmth of her gesture filled the air like sunlight breaking through clouds. It was a gentle reminder that, even in the darkest hours, there were still sparks of kindness, threads of connection we couldn't foresee. Delilah's eyes misted up as she took a sandwich, and a fragile smile broke through her fear. Thank you, she murmured, voice trembling with gratitude. Just remember, the woman said, her eyes twinkling with wisdom, every family has its storms. It's how you weather them that defines you. Just then, the door swung open again as Austin returned, his expression void of the warmth that moments ago filled the space. What did she want? Delilah asked, her voice laced with apprehension. Austin wrapped his arms tightly around himself. The doctor wants to discuss the results from the tests, and they're not good. He started, barely holding back the tremor in his voice. We might not have much time left. In that instant, the words hung above us, piercing through the fragile connection we had begun to build. A crushing realization set in, igniting the pain of our shared dread, and everything we had started to heal felt like it was unraveling too quickly to grasp. I glanced at Delilah, who looked as if she might shatter into a million pieces at any moment. My heart ached for them both, knowing that this storm had only just begun. As if to shatter any frail sense of hope we had built, the enormity of the situation crashed in on us, leaving nothing but the looming uncertainty of what lay ahead. The fluorescent lights buzzed overhead as the three of us stood in that waiting room, the weight of Austin's words wrapping around us like a suffocating blanket. Time seemed to hold its breath, and for a moment, the world outside faded away. Delilah, her eyes glistening with unshed tears, reached out and squeezed my hand, as if touching me could somehow steady the trembling earth beneath us. Austin, what do you mean, not much time left? Her voice was barely above a whisper, full of the dread that danced in the shadows of the room. Austin's gaze dropped to the floor, and he ran a hand through his hair, a mixture of despair and rage flaring in his eyes. The tests showed there are metastases. The cancer is advanced. They don't think she'll fight this off. Not anymore. Delilah's face paled, and she turned her head away, staring at the sterile walls as if they might somehow provide an answer, a way to escape this nightmare. No, no, it can't be true. We just got her back. We can't lose her already. The tremor in her voice cracked my heart open further. Austin took a step closer, his eyes fierce now, brimming with a pain he refused to show. We don't know how long she has. It could be days, weeks. We need to prepare ourselves. We need to talk to the doctor about options, about what she wants, what we want. The finality of his tone hung like an iron shroud around us, suffocating and heavy. Suddenly, the kind elderly woman appeared again at the door, her brows knitted in concern. Is everything all right? She asked softly, sensing the turmoil in the air. Without waiting for an answer, she stepped into the room, the tray of sandwiches forgotten as she approached us. Here, she said, gently placing a hand on Delilah's shoulder. You all look like you need a friend right now. Delilah blinked at the unexpected kindness, a small seed of gratitude beginning to bloom amidst her despair. Thank you, she said shakily, her voice nearly breaking. We just got the worst news. The woman nodded knowingly, as if she had experienced her own storms in life. You don't have to hide how you feel. It's okay to be scared, to be sad. But you don't have to face it all alone. Talk to each other. Share what you're feeling. Austin clenched his fists, caught between the anger of what they had lost and the fear of what lay ahead. How can we talk about it when it feels so unreal? It's like I'm waiting for someone to wake me up from this nightmare. In that moment, Delilah turned to her brother, her voice quiet but resolute. We have to try, Austin. I don't want to fight about what has happened anymore. I want to fight for Mom and share the memories we still have left. Every moment is important now. Austin's shoulders seemed to relax at her words, as if a fragile thread tied them together, holding each other up in a world falling apart. Just as the warmth of understanding washed over them, a distant noise echoed through the hallway, a beeping monitor, a medical team rushing, voices raised in urgency. The old woman, sensing the tension, leaned in closer to us. I've been where you are now. I lost someone dear, and I thought it was the end. But the love we shared, those memories are all that's left sometimes. Hold on to them. They will keep you afloat in the darkest moments. The kindness of a stranger sparked a flicker of hope. Delilah nodded, her expression softening as she wiped away a stray tear. Thank you, she murmured again, appreciating the reminder of love in the face of despair. But just as I thought we might find our footing again, the hospital intercom crackled to life, announcing a code blue somewhere down the corridor. Instantly, a heaviness settled, and a jolt of panic rippled through the room. Austin's eyes widened, his breath catching in his throat. Is that? He stammered, dread flooding in. With a wrenching feeling of foreboding, we turned toward the door. It felt too close, as if whatever was happening out there could reach in and snatch us away from this fragile moment of hope. The kind old woman stepped back, her eyes filled with the knowing pain of grief, and urged us softly, you should be with your mother. Don't let the fear consume you. Austin inhaled sharply, the reality crashing back in like a tidal wave, and in that moment, he made a decision. Let us go? We can't waste any more time. He grabbed Delilah's hand firmly, and in that instant of raw connection, I felt the tremors of their spirits lifting, urging us forward. We moved swiftly, but every step down the corridor felt like traversing a minefield. Each beep from the machines, each hurried whisper from a passing nurse sent a cold shiver racing through my heart. Our mother was waiting for us, but with each passing second, so too was the unknown, looming just ahead. As we rounded the corner, a figure blocked our path, a doctor in scrubs with a grave expression. The world stilled. My breath caught in my throat as he approached, the solemn lines of his face drawn taut with urgency and sorrow. We need to talk about your mother, he said, his voice heavy with the weight of his role. Please follow me. Austin and Delilah exchanged a brief glance, a mix of fear and determination igniting in their eyes. They both moved forward together, and I trailed behind, my heart pounding in rhythm with their steps. This was at the moment of truth, the unraveling of the last threads binding us together. As we walked toward the future, the churning storm within me mirrored the tempest outside, and with every beat of my heart, I wondered whether love would be enough to weather the worst of it all. The doctor led us into a small conference room, the sterile white walls reflecting the harsh light of truth. The room was devoid of warmth, a stark contrast to the storm of feelings raging inside me. As we settled into our seats, I felt the heaviness in the air, a suffocating silence that amplified every flicker of hope and fear in our hearts. Your mother's condition is critical, the doctor began, his tone professional yet soft. We need to discuss immediate options, and it's important to understand what she might want moving forward. Austin's hands were fists on the table, knuckles white as he tried to contain his anger and fear. What about treatment? Isn't there's something we can do? His voice echoed through the room, a raw plea hanging in the air, desperate for an answer that might save them. There are options, yes, the doctor replied, but his eyes told a different story. However, at this stage, treatment could prolong suffering without significantly improving quality of life. We need to consider her wishes and what is truly best for her. Delilah's gaze flickered to the window, where the clouds hung heavy in the sky, looking as if they might weep too. She looked back at the doctor, her voice trembling but unwavering. She wouldn't want to suffer. Mom always said she wanted to be surrounded by love when the time came. The words spilled out like a soft whisper, leaving a weighty silence in their wake. My heart ached for them as the reality settled in that we were on a countdown. But alongside that weight was a flicker of defiance. I refused to let despair overshadow our love for her. Is there a way we can have this conversation with her? To hear what she wants? I asked, and the urgency in my voice surprised even me. The doctor nodded, a glimmer of understanding in his eyes. Yes, we can arrange that. But brace yourselves, she needs your support, now more than ever. Moments later, we were moving again, this time through the winding hallways that felt increasingly surreal, like we were trapped in a dream where the waking reality was just out of reach. Faces blurred by anguish faded into the background as we rushed toward her room, shoulders brushing together, grounding each other amidst the gathering storm of uncertainty. Finally, we reached her door, the numbers etched into the metal catching the light, a cruel reminder of time passing. I could feel the tremors in Austin's hand as he reached for the handle, and in that instant, it hit me, what if this was the last time we would see her? He opened the door slowly, and the sight before us cracked something deep inside. Our mother lay in the hospital bed, her frail body a stark contrast to the vibrant spirit that had once filled our lives. The machines hummed around her, a cacophony of alarms and beeping, yet in that moment, she was still ours, our anchor in the storm. Mom, Delilah breathed, rushing to her side, her fingers trembling as she took her hand. We're here. A soft smile broke across our mother's face, illuminating her weary features, and for a brief moment, it felt as if time stood still. You came for me, she murmured, her voice barely a whisper, but it wrapped around us like the warm embrace of a soft blanket. We would never leave you, Austin said, his voice thick with emotion as he stepped closer, his hand brushing across her forehead. We love you, Mom. Tears pooled in my eyes, and I stood at the foot of the bed, feeling like an intruder in this intimate moment, yet knowing that I, too, held a piece of her love within me. Our mother's gaze flickered over us, and in that fleeting moment, I could almost hear her thoughts weaving through the air, trying to hold on to every moment for as long as she could. What did the doctor say? She asked, her voice growing weaker, but her eyes searched ours with a fierceness that belied her fragility. Delilah swallowed hard, glancing at Austin before gathering her courage. He said, we need to talk about your treatment, Mom. That it's important to understand what you want. There was a stillness as she processed the words, a battle of emotions, flashing across her face. I don't want to suffer. The admission broke my heart open, scattering pieces of my own grief around the room. The air shifted as silence stretched, a quiet understanding among us that we were all steeling ourselves for the decision ahead. In the face of love, there was no escaping the truth we feared. But just as we began to unravel our feelings and share memories, a nurse rushed into the room, her brow furrowed in urgency. There's been a situation with another patient. We need your mother to move to a different area for monitoring immediately, she said, barely glancing at us before looking back to her watch, urgency tinging her voice. Panic gripped my chest like an iron vice. No, wait, I interjected, taking a step forward, desperation spilling from my lips. We need to talk to her. She needs us. Please don't take her away now. The nurse paused, but the determination in her eyes wouldn't waver. I understand, but we have protocols, and I promise she'll have someone with her. You will have more time. But right now, We must act quickly. Austin's expression cracked with the weight of helplessness, but he stepped closer to Delilah and tightened his grip on her hand, a move born from instinct to provide strength. My heart sank as the nurse prepared to wheel our mother away, her frail figure on the gurney taking one last glance at us, her eyes flickering with the palpable love and fear swirling in the room. "Promise me," her voice echoed softly, reaching out to bind us together. "Promise me that you will love each other through this. No matter what." "Always, Mom," Austin whispered, his voice breaking in the temporary silence. "We promise." As they rolled her away, I felt a piece of my heart being tugged along with her, the fragility of every moment spilling between us like sand through our fingers. We were left in a haze of emotion, the hospital lights blazing down, reminding us that we were still here, still fighting our own battles while clinging to the thread of hope that love might guide us through the darkest days yet to come. And just when the weight of despair felt as though it might crush us, Delilah turned to me, her voice trembling but determined. "We have to keep fighting for her. We have to be strong." I nodded, my heart beating in sync with their resolve, but the timing of that promise felt precarious. How long could our love hold when life was tightening its grip? Little did we know, beyond the heavy doors of that room, a shocking revelation awaited, a truth that would challenge everything we believed about love and loss, and propel us toward choices we never anticipated making in this battle for hope. As the minutes turned into what felt like hours, Delilah and I found a small waiting area adjacent to the sterile corridors. The walls were a dull beige and bore the marks of countless stories embedded in their paint, much like our own lives, scarred, yet still standing. I sank into a similarly faded chair, the vinyl cool against my skin. My body felt heavy, fatigue seeping in, but it was the overwhelming uncertainty that weighed on me most. Delilah paced back and forth, her fingers gripping her hair like a lifeline. "We should have fought harder for her," she whispered, her voice quaking with suppressed emotion. "They shouldn't have taken her away. I just feel so powerless." I couldn't find the words to console her. How could I, when I felt just as lost? Instead, I reached out, pulling her into a side embrace, hoping to give her strength. Our hearts beat in synchrony for a moment, an acknowledgement of our shared grief. The sterile air of the hospital seemed to wrap around us like a thick fog, suffocating and numbing. Then something in the back of my mind nudged at me, a memory from childhood, one I hadn't thought of in years. "Remember when Mom used to say, 'Every storm passes, and maybe there's a rainbow waiting on the other side'?" I murmured, trying to anchor us in a moment that wasn't filled with dread. Delilah paused mid-pace, a hesitant smile breaking through her stormy expression. "Yeah." She would pull us into her arms and pretend we were safe in a sacred bubble until the thunder subsided. We both laughed, a sound that felt alien amidst the chaotic sorrow, but it raked us back into the moment, reminding us to cherish what was good, if only for an instant. But even as I tried to summon memories of light, the shadows of the halls loomed around us. It was too quiet as we waited. I imagined fragments of our past, fleeting glimmers of our mother's laughter, the smell of fresh-baked cookies filling our home, her ability to transcend life's challenges with grace and humor. How had we arrived here? When a familiar figure appeared at the doorway, I couldn't shake the feeling that it was bad news. My heart quickened as I recognized Clara, the older nurse we had come to trust throughout this ordeal. She looked tired, her eyes rimmed with darkness, and I braced myself for the impact of whatever news she carried. "Can I come in?" she asked softly, her voice gentle like a lullaby that promised comfort even in despair. "I'm not sure we want to hear it," I confessed, my throat tighter than I wanted it to be. Clara's lips pressed into a thin line, a wave of empathy washing over her. "I understand, truly. But there's something important you need to know about your mother." "Is she okay?" Delilah asked, gripping my arm so tightly I worried about the fire in her gaze. "I can't say if she is okay. But she has stabilized for now," Clara said, her certainty wavering only slightly. "However, there is something else you should consider. I overheard a conversation about your mother's wishes, what she might want for her care. She was a part of something special, you know." "What do you mean?" I asked, my brow furrowing with confusion. Clara took a deep breath, then faced us with earnest intensity. "Your mother worked for a very wealthy family before her illness. A family who had always said they would help her if the need ever arose. It seems they're willing to intervene to provide the best care if you want it. For a moment, I felt as if I were floating in an alien world, one filled with luxurious possibilities that were a far cry from the humble upbringing we had experienced. Why would they care now? Delilah's voice cracked, skepticism mingling with the glimmer of hope Claire had offered. Claire shrugged, her brow knitting with concern. People can surprise us in times of need. This family, they were broken. They owed your mother more than you know. They want to make things right. My heart raced as I thought of the implications. Are you saying they could help us afford the treatment she needs? The very thing the doctor suggested might not be an option? Exactly, she replied. I know this isn't an easy decision, but she deserves the best fight we can muster. And they are willing to provide it. You just need to reach out and ask. Delilah's eyes widened, a spark igniting within her. What if we let them? I can't decide for you, but I would explore every possible avenue, Claire said gently. Talk to them. You deserve to fight. As Claire left to attend to other duties, the weight of her words hung between us, coating the air with possibility. The hum of the hospital faded, replaced by the rapid beat of my heart as I processed the enormity of the decision laid out before us. The thought of reaching out to a family we had never really known, whose lives had intersected with ours in such a complex way, was overwhelming. But as I locked eyes with Delilah, I sensed that something deeper was awakening inside us, perhaps our mother's spirit guiding us toward a path we'd never envisioned. With a renewed sense of determination, I whispered, let us find out if they really meant what they said. The hope flickering between us ignited into something fierce, but it also carried the weight of uncertainty. What if, when we reached out, we uncovered secrets that would shatter us further? Just then, the nurse returned, her expression studied. The doctor wants to talk to you. Both of you'll want to hear this. Instinctively, fear slithered back into my chest as I exchanged worried glances with Delilah. And as we rose to follow her down the corridor, I couldn't shake the feeling that with every step, we were walking toward both hope and something dark, revealing secrets that might change everything we knew about love and how far we were willing to go for it. The hallway stretched out before us, a blur of muted colors and echoing footsteps as we followed Claire to a small conference room. The air felt charged, heavy with anticipation and the unshakable weight of impending revelations. I glanced at Delilah, her face a mixture of hope and trepidation that mirrored mine. Together, we exchanged a silent promise to stay anchored amid whatever storm approached. Claire held the door open, and I stepped into the room first, taking in the sterile environment illuminated by harsh fluorescent lights. An elderly doctor sat at the table, papers strewn before him, but it was his expression that snagged my attention. It was a blend of gravity and kindness, as if he bore the burden of knowledge he wasn't sure how to impart. Come in, sit down, he urged gently, gesturing to the chairs opposite him. Delilah slid into her seat first, and I followed, feeling the air shift with the unspoken anxiety swelling between us. I apologize for the urgency, he began, his voice steady despite the circumstances. I wanted you to be the first to know that your mother's situation has required immediate attention. A bead of sweat trickled down my spine. Immediate? What does that mean? The doctor paused, taking a moment to collect his thoughts. It means that while she has stabilized, we need to start a treatment regimen sooner rather than later. The nature of her illness leaves little room for delays, and we must act fast. Delilah's fingers curled tightly around the edge of the table, her knuckles whitening as she pushed back the wave of panic threatening to drown her. You mean we need to make a decision about this treatment now? Yes, he confirmed gently, his gaze softening. And this is complicated, I understand. But based on your mother's wishes and on what's at stake, I believe it's crucial to consider all options including the support that family might provide. Every word echoed, embedding itself deep in my soul. You mean the family Claire mentioned? I managed my throat tight. They're willing to help. But do we trust them? I can't say if they have genuine intentions, only that reaching out could change the course of your mother's care. Unless you're prepared to consider alternative options, you may lose your chance. Fear gripped my heart, tightening its hold, but I couldn't ignore the fragile glimmer of hope that flickered beneath it. Turning to Delilah, I caught her eye. This could be it. We could make this work. But the shadows of doubt loomed large as she bit her lip. What if we open Pandora's box? What if they want something from us in return? Our eyes swept back to the doctor, seeking a lifeline. They've already taken so much from us, I whispered, my voice only just above a breath. How much more can we offer? He leaned forward, his expression earnest. Sometimes, it's the connections that carry the most weight, and understanding those relationships can lead to profound healing both in health and soul. But ultimately, the choice is yours. Before I could answer, the door swung open again, and a young woman stepped in, her presence commanding yet soft. Dressed in a tailored suit, her hair sleek and dark, she seemed out of place in our grief. But there was an unmistakable urgency in her eyes, and she locked onto us in a way that felt almost protective. "Excuse me, Dr. Klein," she said, her voice layered with authority. "I understand there has been a misunderstanding regarding Mrs. Hill's care. I'm here to clarify things and discuss how we can support you." Delilah's breath hitched, and I felt a cold shiver race through me. "And you are?" I challenged, trying to mask the tremor in my voice. "I'm Emily Collins," she introduced, her tone firm yet compassionate. "I represent the Sanders family. We want to ensure your mother receives the best possible care." Her name sent a ripple of recognition through me, and instantly, the weight of our garage sale upbringing and the condescending acts of charity from those above crowded my mind. "What does that mean for us?" I asked cautiously. "What do you want in return?" Emily's eyes softened. "Nothing more than to fulfill a promise made long ago. Your mother cared for my family. She nurtured us when we were faced with challenges of our own. I won't deny that we owe her more than you know. I'm here to assure you that we want to make right what once was wrong." Tension crackled in the air, and I glanced at Delilah, whose expression flickered between disbelief and the need for hope. To trust this stranger could either be the lifeline we desperately sought, or another thread being pulled from our unraveling lives. "Consider it for your mother's sake," Emily urged gently. "Seeing her receive the best signifies not just care, but love. Love extended downward, as your mother always intended." But just as her words wrapped around me like a warm embrace, the reality of our tumultuous past clawed back out. The burden of our shared grief threatened to break the surface. Could we, as daughters, allow ourselves to accept help from a family that had once ignored our existence? Then a sudden crash echoed through the corridor outside, followed by hurried footsteps, a contrast to the painfully slow conversations binding us. Panic gripped me as I shot up from my chair. What was that? A nurse rushed in, her face pale. "We have an emergency situation. I need you to stay calm. Your mother has taken a turn for the worse." Everything stopped. My breath caught like fragile glass, cracking beneath the enormity of her words. I turned to Delilah, who stared at me, disbelief clouding her eyes. "Let us go," I said, rushing toward the door, desperate to confront the chaos beyond it. Leaving hope and uncertainty behind, we ran into the unknown, knowing only that we were being pulled into yet another storm. And this time, I feared it wouldn't pass quietly. The chaos unfolded like an untamed beast, bursting into our lives and tearing through the calm we had clung to. Nurses rushed past us, their eyes wide with purpose, the urgency thick in the air like an oppressive weight. The world spun around me as panic clawed at the walls of my chest, relentless and crushing. Delilah was at my side, her hand gripping mine tightly, the adrenaline propelling us forward as we chased the echoes of fear and dread. "Where is she?" Delilah cried, her voice cutting through the noise as we cornered into the main hall, where chaos reigned supreme. Adults and children alike filled the space, their expressions painted with worry, loss, and helplessness. Each beep and murmur intertwined, mingling all our stories into a tapestry of tragedy. "Mom," I shouted, panic rising dangerously as we approached the nurses buzzing with work. The tension practically crackled in the air as I caught sight of a doctor, a familiar face returning to us too soon. My stomach twisted with dread as he turned and approached, and in that brief moment, our eyes met, despair translating the unspoken throughout the ensuing storm. "He needs to explain what is happening," Delilah demanded, voice steady despite the tremors visible in her fingers. "You can't take her away again. Your mother is experiencing significant complications. We've had to stabilize her circulation, and during that process the doctor's voice softened, but his words crashed down like a tidal wave, leaving me breathless. The uncertainty, the fear, wrapped around me, constricting my ability to respond. Is she going to be okay? I managed to ask, my voice a mere whisper against the tempest of raging emotions. The doctor hesitated, searching our faces, knowing full well the gravity of his words. We're doing everything we can, but I cannot promise that she will pull through. It is a delicate situation. We need to prepare for any outcome. Those words, a jab of ice to my heart, sank deep and twisted. I felt the earth under me start to be pulled away, leaving only an abyss as silence consumed me. Delilah turned to me, her eyes wide with realization, the confrontation of loss inching ever closer, and I could see her breaking. The cracks that had begun to hold us together now threatened to swallow us whole, and then a glimmer appeared. We can fight for her, I said suddenly, fire erupting within me despite the few nuances of our situation. For every moment, every breath she has left. My words felt raw in the room, a plea laced with desperate determination to find meaning even within tragedy. Delilah met my gaze, the fight igniting back within her. We can reach out, she said fiercely, her grip tightening, resolving something we had once feared. We can ask the Sanders for help. Just like that, the determination to hold on to hope ignited a flicker that chased away the shadows. We didn't know what love or loyalty would look like in this moment, a burden twisting at the idea of accepting help from a family we had largely estranged ourselves from. But one thing was clear, we would not let fear dictate our choices. Let us find Emily, I urged, envisioning the warmth of kindness she had offered, as opposed to the cold grip of despair that lingered in the corners of our minds. She might help support Mom. She is connected to that family, maybe they'll honor their promise. As if summoned by our cries, Emily appeared at the end of the hallway, her expression wary yet filled with empathy, her eyes searching for answers. What is happening? I just heard the commotion, please. Delilah jumped in, her voice trembling yet resolute. We need your help. My mother's condition is critical, and they said we need to act fast. The seconds stretched. Time fractured into an agonizing fracture as we waited for her response. I can arrange to bring specialists in, Emily said finally, her voice filled with a resolve that steadied my racing heart. But we need your consent, and I need to talk to the hospital staff immediately. With Emily's reassurance, the clouds began to disperse. We made our way back through the chaos of the hospital, the thrumming of life merging seamlessly with our fears. Each step was met with uncertainty, painful memories intertwining with new possibilities. Yet, our shared goal remained clear, the love for our mother anchored us in the coming hours. As the doctors hurried between rooms, Emily worked tirelessly on our behalf. She became our lifeline, forging connections that filled the gaps of our vulnerability. However, as the sun dipped lower in the sky, casting long shadows against the walls, more than physical care began to rise, and emotional reckoning had begun. The hours ticked by, interspersed with whispers of hope, receipts of reality, and a demanding choice that loomed. Just as the twilight hung in the air, Austin appeared. A ghost of the boy we once knew, his earlier hopes stripped away. He was frail, caught between the weight of grief and parental responsibility. Yet amidst the tremors of desperation, there lay an unwavering love that prompted him to seek answers. Is she still? He began, the words tumbling helplessly as he caught sight of Emily. The connection threading between three shattered souls drawn together by the fragility of life and the steadfastness of family. That I stepped forward. We're fighting, I asserted, feeling the crackle of electricity pulse through the room. And we need you, Austin. The Sanders family can help, but you need to come together with us. Slowly, he nodded, retreating into a fragile acceptance. For Mom, he said quietly, and in that moment, we bound ourselves together in shared grief, intertwined by a single purpose: to embrace love in the face of loss. Finally, under the muted glow of fluorescent lights, the doctor entered again, his demeanor businesslike yet empathetic. We'll begin treatment promptly, but we need your family's agreement. This path may change how you all approach the future. At that moment, I felt a swell of connection between us, a promise woven into the fabric of who we were. We were family, imperfect and chaotic, but filled with love strong enough to weather the darkest storms. We trust you, Delilah said, her voice unwavering. Do what needs to be done, for her to give her a chance. As the doctor nodded and left, my heart thudded, a rhythm reassuring enough to push us into the next chapter of our lives, a chapter marked by the overwhelming power of love, woven into the very fabric of our being. Later that night, the quiet settled back over us as sleep began to find the corners of the room, each of us an integral thread in the tapestry of our mother's battle. Her heart beat steadily somewhere in the echoing waves of our bond, immortalized in love and painted across the world of heartache we had shared. And through the darkness, I knew something powerful awaited us. A newfound understanding forged through heartache, a family reformed, united by the resilience of love. As I drifted into a semblance of sleep that night, I drew comfort in knowing that our journey had just begun, one defined by the strength of forgiveness and the unfaltering magic of love. In the end, it dawned on me what truly mattered was not necessarily how we arrived at moments of closure, but that we chose to embrace them to illuminate the corners of our hearts, transforming loss into something deeply vibrant and meaningful. And so, beneath the heavy weight of a starless night, I found solace in a quiet realization: love, unconditional, brave, and endlessly generous, was enough to bind us through even the fiercest storms that lay ahead.